Well, hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for the Financial Coach Master Training Informational Webinar. My name is Chris Campbell, the Director of Financial Coaching, and joining me today is Bill Lowe, the Senior Director of Financial Coaching. And we're really pumped up to be with you guys today to be able to talk with you about everything you need to know about Financial Coach Master Training. Now, Bill and I have been working with the coaching team for over a decade, and I can tell you this, we've answered a ton of questions. We've helped a ton of coaches become coaches, become better coaches, and learn how this works. So this webinar is going to cover everything you need to know about how our training works, how you can be involved, and how it can really help you kind of live out your dreams as a financial coach and serve people in your community the way that we've been doing this as an organization for 25, 26 years. So we're really pumped up to have you. Now, this webinar had 3,200 people registered for it, and we're gonna have a lot of folks live. We're gonna have a lot of folks that are listening in later on, listening to a recording. So if you are listening live, the couple things I'd tell you: number one, we're gonna talk with you, not just at you. Yes, we're going to share with you everything I just mentioned, but we're going to have a Q&A time right at the end where we want to answer your questions. So make sure if you're taking notes, which I encourage you to do, make sure you get your questions ready, and you'll be able to type those in on your screen at the bottom in the Q&A tab. We'll read those and get those answered for you, and really excited to do that. If you're listening to the recording, listen to the whole thing. Everything in here has a meaning and a purpose. Make sure and listen to all the points that we make, all the questions that we jump up at the beginning, and then also listen to the questions that your peers are asking. People are asking questions. Everyone learns from that. And then the final thing, guys, we will be doing a giveaway at the end for those that registered for this as well. So someone's going to win Financial Coach Master Training today as well. So we're pumped up about that. We're excited to have you. So without any further ado, let's just get right to it, Bill.
Excellent. Hey, everybody, this is Bill, and along with my buddy and friend Chris Campbell here, we are both absolutely pumped that you have decided to carve out a little bit of time in your valuable day today to hang out with us virtually here from Nashville, Tennessee. Holy mackerel, it's August 12th. It is hotter than the dickens here. We thought we would be past this kind of weather, but it's like 96. It's 96 out right now in mid-September. Too hot. We're waiting for fall here. Anyways, glad you're here. Again, appreciate the investment in time and attention. So I'm going to kind of set the table in this presentation. I'll turn it over to my friend Chris here really quickly. We'll get down in the weeds, explain to you guys what FCMT is, how it works, why you might want to consider becoming a Ramsey trained coach. But here we are, September 2019. If you think about it, we're about 11 years or so past the start of the Great Recession back in 2008. And here's the thing. You know, things are not perfect, I should say, in America today economically. But honest to Pete, you would have to be pretty obstinate not to agree that they're pretty doggone good. When you think of, the record low employment for females, blacks, Hispanics, Asian, wage growth up 3% for 13 consecutive months. 158 million Americans are employed. It's the most ever. Near record low interest rates, near record low inflation, near record high stock market, et cetera, et cetera. It's not perfect out there. There are some holes, but the broad swaths, this economy is cooking and things are pretty doggone good. But here's the other part of the equation. 11 years in, after 2008. It really looks like a lot of people, and I'm always careful here to stop and say not everybody, because that's not true or accurate, but a lot of people, it appears, haven't learned a heck of a lot about how to manage their personal finances over these last 11 years. When you think about, all those cars going up and down the highway and church parking lots in your neighborhood, the average car note, $32,500. The average car payment today is $2 shy of $500. It's $498. The average length of a car note today, guys, is 72 months. And 25% of the time, it goes all the way out to 7 years. The average note is 6 years. True story. I was in my local Honda dealership on Saturday having some service work done. And at the table next to me, there was a guy sitting there. And finally, a kind of a salesman guy walks up to him. And I was right there. I wasn't eavesdropping. I just overheard it. And the salesman slid a piece of paper to this customer and said, "We can do it for 72 months at 4.99%. That's a true story from a couple days ago. And my heart almost broke. There's another guy that's going down the path of financing a depreciating asset at 7 years at 5%. So things aren't perfect, guys. But again, there's a lot of people out there that are not managing their finances really like they should. So I'm going to kind of take a peek at pretty quickly, go through 3 data points that really carve out and show what's really going on out there today in America with the average American. So let's jump in, okay? Data point number 1, today in America, 7 out of 10 couples are not budgeting consistently. Now, I always say on these webinars that we do that you can make a really strong argument that if you're not budgeting consistently, if you're not doing what Dave Ramsey says, telling your money what to do on paper or on purpose at the beginning of the month, it's just flat out going to be hard for you to win with money consistently. It's just that foundational skill set that you have to win with money. Would you agree, Chris?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and so a lot of people, it's just one of those weird, funky things that a lot of people struggle with making budgets work. And they'll say, well, budgets don't work for me. Not true, okay? You're just coming at it the wrong way with the wrong approach, okay? So again, the budgeting thing is a real issue for a lot of people. Data point number 2. Today in America, 39% of Americans cannot cover a $400 emergency. I've seen a statistic semi-recently that says something like 70% of people could not cover a $1,000 emergency. Now, here's why that's a real problem. If people, many of you or people out there in the world, live in a world that's similar to my friend Chris and I's world, things go sideways, right? Here again, it's hotter than the Dickens in Nashville, Tennessee. HVAC systems go on the fritz and stop working, typically when you have company coming in 2 days, right? Water heaters start dripping, fuel pumps on cars break, et cetera, et cetera. And if you have not been intentional of putting money aside for life's little emergencies, and by the way, what we're really talking about more than anything else here are not emergencies, but really nasty, frustrating inconveniences when your fuel pump goes out. It's not an emergency. Every once in a while there is, but we're just talking about a failure to plan. And if you haven't been intentional with this, and frankly, most people are not, as you can see from the slide, when that HVAC system goes out, when the water heater starts dripping, when the new tires or the new battery or the fuel pump, people pull out the Visa, American Express, and finance all that at 18, 20, 25% or worse, and the negative cycle goes on and on and on. All right, here's the big one, okay? Many of you might have seen this before, but I'm gonna go into it anyways because it's important. 78% of people in America today are living paycheck to paycheck. Now, Chris, I love a take that you have on explaining this because frequently people will ask us, and it's a fair question, hey, Bill, hey, Chris, what do you mean by paycheck to paycheck? So I like how an example that you give that kind of paints this picture.
Yeah, well, this really talks about the need, right? The need of financial coaching. And earlier part of this year, here we are in September, but around January, February, our government went through a shutdown and around 800,000 people were affected. Now, if you watch Fox or CNN a lot, which I highly advise you not to do, turn that crap off, right? But if you're watching that, you saw people standing in line to feed their family, get water and food for their family. And you would have thought that they had missed many paychecks. Well, we have friends in the Department of Homeland Security and FBI, and I've talked to many of them. And listen, the average government employee missed one paycheck. So how is it that you missed one paycheck and you're standing in line to feed your family? Well, it's because you live paycheck to paycheck. Now that 800,000 is a small sample size of what the average American looks like when life gets real really quick.
Yeah, so really what we're talking about here, just to drive this point home with the paycheck to paycheck phenomena, is really people with zero margin in their financial life. If anything at all goes sideways, they're sunk. They just are. They're just sunk. And here's the other aspect about living in modern America, particularly when you weave in social media and et cetera, is that a lot of people, and it's sad, are living behind this mask of prosperity because all you really see if you're on Facebook or Instagram or talking to somebody at church is about, hey, the surprise vacation to Destin, or the new Ford Explorer, or
the iPhone that just came out.
I gotta have the iPhone 11. I didn't even know there was. I barely knew there was an iPhone 10, by the way. iPhone 8s are phenomenal, but evidently iPhone 10, now the iPhone 11. You get the thing. It's the next new thing. It's the next new toy. It's the next flash and bang, and basically that's what you see. But I promise you guys, behind that mask of prosperity are a lot of people that are tossing and turning in bed at night, stressed out of their gourd over the state of their finances. A lot of husbands and wives at each other's throats, a lot of baseball games where dad's not there because, again, he's just consumed with other stuff, and it's a real problem. And I always take a pause here as well to say, I just laid some fairly heavy stuff on you, but that's real, guys. And I promise you, it's real here in Nashville, it's real in Los Angeles, Miami, Chicago, and everywhere in between, okay? But here's the thing. There are green shoots. There are a growing percentage of people, and it's really one of the coolest aspects of doing what we do for a living, coaching people and also training coaches, is that we get the feedback back in, and it's some of the most gratifying things that we get by people saying, hey, I worked with a coach, and I'm on the right track. I've paid off $40,000 in debt. I'm on a budget. I'm starting to win with money. I'm excited, save my marriage, etc. So green shoots are happening. Again, there are people that are deciding enough is enough. I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. I'm ready to make some short-term sacrifices to win long-term. And more people are choosing to help accelerate that progress by working with a Ramsey trained coach.
Yep. Good stuff. So let's talk about why people consider FCMT. And, here's the thing. The number one thing that I hear from people who are new and saying, hey, I'm thinking about taking financial coaching. I'll say, okay, cool. What are you really looking for? They're looking for credibility is probably number one, right? Hey, listen, I already know enough about this, but why should someone listen to me? Credibility, that's the king. And then also confidence and competence. Because here's the deal. Who wants to work with a person that's not confident? Well, no one does. If you're a doctor and you've seen those Geico commercials, they're like, yeah, he's an okay doctor. That feels weird. Everybody agrees with that, right? But here's the deal. Credibility and confidence are really king. And so when someone looks at FCMT, here's the reasons why they choose to take it with us and why they choose to take their coach training from our organization. So the first thing is leveraging the Ramsey Solutions globally trusted brand. Because here's the deal. Credibility comes from awareness. You have to okay, I understand who that is. I always kind of joke with people who I talk to on the phone. They'll say, will people really recognize this? And I'm like, well, absolutely. People everywhere around the world know Ramsey Solutions. And I'll use the silly example of a college. I'll say, have you ever heard of MTSU? Someone will go, I don't even know what that is. And I'll say, have you ever heard of Harvard? Yep. Okay, they're both four-year universities. You just know one because it's nationally recognized. The other one still does great education, but it ain't recognized. Your credibility could be totally different for those two organizations. It's the same way. Ramsey Solutions around the country and around the world, people know what that stands for. Why? Because he's been on the radio for 25 years. He's the third largest radio station in the entire U.S. His podcast is number 5 in the entire planet. His YouTube channel, top 1% on the planet. People know who Dave Ramsey is. They know what we stand for. When someone's trained by us, they get to leverage that rather than going, well, you should just listen to me because I know what I'm talking about. Who doesn't have a voice nowadays? That's why you need to leverage and use that brand to help you get lift in your community as well. The second thing is learning from 25 years in the trenches. Listen, this whole thing started with Dave Ramsey coaching people one-to-one. His first employee was a financial coach. This is at the DNA of everything that we do. And that's not coming in on a high horse with a white wig on saying we got it all figured out and we're judging the world. Nope, it's going, listen, we've been through the trenches. We know how this works. We know how people act, because here's the deal. Money is in the psych department, not the math department. You can sit there and throw spreadsheets at people all day long, and I'm sure we've all done it, because if you're like me, you're like, well, you should just do this. Here's the deal. People need to create new behavior so they get better results. That's how people do that. So our training, we really focus in on the emotional, psychological, relational aspect of money, not just simply doing math with people. And that's what we've learned over 25 years, and we share in our training. So what do you really get? You get to learn from a quarter century of going, we've dealt with human behavior. This is really about behavioral finance more than anything. Now, the third point that we bring up is access to our playbook and form. So how have we gone to the streets? How have we gone to the masses? Also, how have we gone to the one-to-one individuals? How have we done that? What works? What doesn't work? There's so many mental barriers for new coaches or even people who are considering being coaches. I had a lady yesterday say, I'm going to have a hard time just walking up to people on the street about coaching. I'm like, well, sure. Do you envision yourself as a street preacher? Because I think that's what you're thinking this is like. Well, obviously that's silly, right? But in our minds, we have these mental barriers of how that works. I even hear people say, well, I don't want to do this because if I do it as a business, I'm not a salesperson. Well, listen, sales is a transference of emotion. You're selling me on how you can't sell. You want me to believe something that you believe. You're selling me the idea. That playbook and how we do that, that's what we're talking about, those mental barriers. All of our coaching forms. Now, listen, people always ask, what kind of tools? What kind of tools? Listen, the people who focus in on those things are the same people who their bonus rooms are loaded up with treadmills and Bowflexes with laundry hanging on them. Oh, the tool's the answer. It's never the answer. I read an article just yesterday where it said an advisor has a new idea that will change everything, a pen and piece of paper for your budget. Really? Have we gone the other way now? We've tried to build every app in the world, and now we're back to pen and piece of paper. Because here's the deal. The budget that you do is the one that works every single time, not the one that you plan to do on an app that you might use. You see the difference? So our forms are very usable, and they help you get to the root cause of what people are struggling with. Now, here's the fourth point. Support from Dave Ramsey's coaching team. Now, we've hired 7 coaches in 25 years. We have 3 on our staff today, Lisa, Les, and Tim. They're the best 3 coaches in America. They've done thousands of coaching sessions. Tim has launched 2 coaching practices in different cities around the country. He launched one on the street where Dave Ramsey's office was before he came to work with us. We always joke with him that he opened a carnival outside of Disney World and still made it. That's the type of people you get to work with when you're doing coaching with our team. And here's the other thing, guys. With those 3 coaches, they're trusted illicitly by Dave Ramsey. Now, think about that globally trusted brand. That brand trusts them to coach Dave's friends and family. That's who you get to work with. That's who locks arms with you all the way through our training, through all your engagements to share with you best practices so you're not reinventing the wheel. Now, the 5th point is the community of like-minded people. Sometimes when you're coaching guys and everything we just shared with you, we're so countercultural. Listen, I can't tell you how many people and how many family members I've said, well, you'll always have a car payment. You'll never be able to pay off your house. Oh, you can't get ahead in America today. Everybody's working against you. No, that's you. That's your problem. It's a mental barrier. And so when you get to be around a community of like-minded people, you get to really clear those. Because here's the thing. You have mental barriers just like I do. And that's the reason why we get stuck in life. Your clients will have the same thing. We want to show you and teach you how we've done that over those 25 years, because people hire a coach to get results they can't get on their own. And the only way to do that is to deal with the root issues that they're struggling with. Again, not math. If we just did simple math, no one would go into debt. So it's not a math problem. That's why FCMT Online is so effective. Now, here's the next thing. How is it conducted? How in the world, if you said, oh yeah, I want to do this, Chris, how would I do that? Well, we've been training coaches almost going on 20 years now, Bill, here in a couple months, right? And for many of those years, people used to have to come to the Jewel of the South, Nashville, Tennessee, and that's no longer the case. The course is 100% online. We don't even offer the on-site anymore. You know why? Because so many people want to take it from home, and that's why that's all we do, 100% online. What does that stop you from having to do? Well, you don't have to take time off from work, because 99.9% of people who take this training work full time. They have massive busy schedules, just like you and I, that they're going, I can't add another single thing. Well, here's the deal. You can take our training at 9 o'clock at night, midnight, 5 o'clock in the morning, whenever you have time to do it. I see that the average coach knocks it out in about 35 to 45 days, spending just a few hours a week, and it's very, very doable. I mean, even our modules are broken down into 11-minute modules. That's how simple it is to work through one. But the content, all 14 lessons that we have, builds on one another. We go from getting down to the root of people's issues all the way through launching your coaching practice. That's how it's done. So it's 100% online. It can be taken from anywhere in the world. You have internet access. And here's the deal. We have people from all over the world that take our training because, again, we deal with behavioral finances. Financial coaches do not sell investments. They do not sell insurance. They do not do taxes. There's plenty of people in your country and in America that do those things. I promise you, Bill, I can throw a football, and my arm's kind of not as good as it used to be, and hit one of those guys in any one direction. Now, we have those guys that take our training because they want to add this as a value and as a distinctive competency in the marketplace. But the average person, just like you and I, that's why you can be anywhere in the world and take our training and help people just where you are. Now, that always leads into what type of background do I need? And I saw a guy just the other day. He said, why should people listen to me? I don't have any kind of financial background. Well, here's the reality. You can get more this series 7, series 66. You might know what that means, by the way. No, you don't. It means basically you can sell investments, sell insurance, work with the investment side of things. If you're a CPA, you do taxes. If you're a CFP, you still work with investments, insurance, and do all those things. But most people, again, don't know what those things are or how that helps them. And so when it comes to your background, just use Dave Ramsey as your example. He had an insurance license. He had an investment license, $2 million in real estate, and a finance degree from the University of Tennessee. Oh, and then he went completely financially broke with a Chapter 7 bankruptcy. So it kind of shows you that academia doesn't solve your problems. Your behavior solves problems. That's why if you've won with money or you're winning with money and you want to show people how to do that, that's why a degree doesn't matter. That's why your background doesn't matter. That's why we have teachers, firefighters, Navy SEALs, stay-at-home moms. Yes, we do have the real estate agents, the CPAs and financial advisors come through our training, but again, they do it as a value add. But the average person is just like you and I that said, listen, I want to help people. And there's some struggling people like Bill just talked about that need some help. And I'm going to show them how to win with money. And it's not about bars and graphs and all that mess, right? So here's the thing. There isn't this background that you got to have if you want to win and be a financial coach. Now, here's a common question that I also get. What in the world do people do that are a great coach? What do they do? What makes them a great coach? If your background doesn't matter, where you live doesn't matter, all those things doesn't matter, what does matter? Well, and these three things, guys, by the way, they sound like brochure filler, but they're really I'm having a hard time today, Bill. They're really real, okay? And we will tell people not to take our training if you can't get these three things. The first is the heart of a teacher. You have to want to see people win with money the same way you're winning or have won. Now, why do I keep saying winning? Because we have coaches that are in debt. We have coaches that are working their way through the debt. They're they're the best coaches out there. They proselytize better than anybody. You know why? Because they're in the middle of it and they're working their way through it and they tell everybody about it. They don't want people to sit where they are anymore. They want to move people to a better spot in life. That's the heart of a teacher. The second thing is the willingness to learn. Now, listen, I love what Coach Wooden said back in the day. He goes, it's what you learn after you know it all that really counts. Once you believe you've hit that peak of learning and, well, I've read Dave's books. I've listened to him for 25,000 hours this year. I kind of already know everything he's going to say, or I have more degrees than a thermometer. What could I possibly learn? Oh my goodness, there's tons. There's tons. Dave Ramsey learns every day. One of my favorite things to hear from him on the radio in front of 17 million people is, I don't know. I'll find that answer and get back to you. And here's a guy that's 25 years, 3 hours every single day, running a 1,000-person company in front of 17 million people that says, I don't know. So I would beg to say most of us are in that same position on a daily basis that kind of touch it ancillarily. That's the way you have to think. The third thing is the desire to be a part of something greater than yourself. Now, listen, coaches help people save marriages. Money is the number one cause of divorce in America. I talked to a pastor yesterday and he said, I don't really like talking about money. I said, that feels weird because the Bible talks about it more than anything else. What are you teaching? It's a desire to be a part of something greater than yourself. If people are having money problems, why are we talking about everything else? When the Avengers movie came out, I couldn't walk in any one direction 10 feet without someone stopping me and like, you seen it? You see how the ending went? They wouldn't stop talking about it. But then someone will say, well, how do I find people to help them with their money? It's the same way you did with the Avengers movie. You say, you're struggling with that? You put on your coaching ears. It's when you're walking around the block or at the pool with your neighbor and they say, yeah, we're not going on fall break this year. Really? Why? Money's tight. Cindy lost her job. Oh my goodness. What are you doing about that? Rather than going, oh, that's fine. You having pizza tonight? You start stepping into those situations. That's when you say, I want to be a part of something bigger than myself. These are the three things you have to start thinking about if you want to be a financial coach. Now, what in the world do they do when they get this training? And many times that question is answered before they even take it. I'll hear people say, man, I'd love to do coaching and I'd love to make a little money at it. I'd love to do coaching. My church needs this. I want to do it as a ministry. Well, that first one, the ministry, this is where somebody will work in the benevolent side. Again, that pastor I talked to, he's like, heck yeah, I'm going to sign up. I'm going to bring 10 people with me. And that's great. He goes, I'm going to do ministry in the church and I'm going to charge outside of the church. That's exactly what I'm going to do. And his ministry, anybody that comes in the church that needs help with their light bill because they can't afford it, well, guess what? They're going to meet with a coach first. And we're going to make sure we're not throwing good money after bad. We're giving a hand up rather than a handout. And then we'll allow them to accept the money at that point. Maybe you're working with a women's ministry, or maybe you're working with a women's shelter, or maybe you're working with a school, whatever it may be, but you're coaching people at your church or a 501c3, and you're choosing not to charge. Your level of service is the same. You're just choosing not to charge. That doesn't mean it's not valuable. It just means there's no transaction being had. The second one is, this is where people choose to charge. A growing percentage of people who take our training are saying, listen, I see the need, I love it, and I want to charge for it. I love what Earl Nightingale said. He goes, your rewards in life will always be in direct proportion to the service you provide. And our coaches provide an amazing service. They help people better than almost anybody out there win with money. And guess what? Money is just a certificate of appreciation. It's the applause of your customer. People like to demonize it. Oh, business is evil. I thought you were a Christian. How in the world can you charge? The same way Chick-fil-A does for a chicken sandwich. That's the way it works. I'm hungry. I want a chicken sandwich. It costs $5. I'm going to pay that. I want that chicken sandwich.
I buy 2 typically.
I get that. It's some waffle fries. But here's the thing. You coach as a business. And listen, the average coach out there will charge anywhere between $100 and $200 per session. Now, I'm going to pick you off the floor right now emotionally and say, oh, my goodness, Chris, they charge that much? Yeah, absolutely they do. You know why? Because the average cable bill in America right now is $157. The average non-millionaire in America goes out to eat and spends about $283 a month. You don't believe me? We're a couple days from the weekend. Go to Chili's or Old Charlie's or Buffalo Wild Wings, and the restaurant will be full. And then I'll take you back to the 78% that live paycheck to paycheck. The better question is this. Not how do broke people pay for coaching? How do broke people go out to eat at $280 a month? How do they have the NFL Sunday ticket that just started last Thursday? How do they pay $600 a month for their kids to go out and play travel baseball when their marriage is on the line and they need help and they have no future or retirement? And oh, by the way, there's no school paid for or even prepared for. And then we take out a student loan debt. That's really what's going on, not how do broke people pay for it, because they can. They just have to prioritize. So average coach charges between $100 and $200 per session. Average client will meet with the coach 5 to 7 times. That's what we've seen from our latest survey. And the average session is about an hour long. So that's kind of what that looks like. Those coaches who are running it as a business, is kind of the numbers that looks like. So launch a ministry, do it as a coaching business and choose to charge. And then the third is just doing it for personal professional development. Now, listen, a good friend of ours, he works with Homeland Security, very high-ranking guy. He took this. He sends me articles all the time. He said, listen, my guys are struggling with finances. They deal with people and unfortunately have to detain people that are struggling with finances. We need to know how to handle it. I have a good friend that's in the Navy SEALs. He goes, listen, I deal with the SEALs, the Green Berets, and I deal with football teams and all kinds of stuff. They're struggling with finances. They need to know how to do it. These guys are just doing it to make themselves better, to engage with people. Now think about that. If money's coming up in those scenarios, what's coming up in your world? Why would you go, well, yeah, I need to better prepare myself to have these kind of conversations? So they launch a ministry, they do it as a business, or they just do it for personal, professional development. Now, we've kind of covered the mental barriers, the mental questions that almost every person that's ever looked into this training asks. Let's step over into what does the training look like. Let's go over the lessons, Bill.
Excellent, Chris. Hey, good stuff there, my friend. Hey, what's included in the training? So really FCMT, and again, you've heard Chris and I shorten it to FCMT. We're prone to use that acronym. It's Financial Coach Master Training. It's really an interactive, I call it a virtual online training experience that's going to help you learn how to coach people, really the full gamut from people in crisis to people in retirement that are thriving. And again, you heard Chris talk about this. Our core audience is a busy, active, working adult. We recognize that. We account for that. Again, we break the training up into bite-sized pieces, so you're never in a situation where you're sitting down for a 4-hour block, unless you want to be, for instance. But we break it up into bite-sized pieces so you can methodically work your way through the training, okay? So there's a dashboard. Really kind of the heart or the foundation of the course is a dashboard that has 14 core lessons. We think they're really engaging, awesome lessons. They're led by Chris Hogan and Dave Ramsey. Now, when we do these webinars, I always tell people, hey, I'm not going to waste anyone's time credentializing Dave Ramsey. You either get that or you don't. I can't help you with that. But many of you might be familiar with Chris Hogan. For those of you who aren't, number one, Hogan, that's what we call him. He's a personal friend of ours for over 10 years, was one of those 7 coaches that Chris referenced earlier. He's not a talking head. Yes, you see him on Fox and Friends and Good Morning America. Corporate America pays him big bucks to come out to talk to their leadership team. But Hogan, at his heart, was a coach and is a coach. And he's been in the seat and has had thousands and thousands of coaching sessions. He's the real deal, okay? World-class speaker. Again, Hogan and Chris Dave and Chris Hogan, forgive me, act as your guides through the entire training. Okay, let's talk about how we built the training, all right, because it's important. Again, Chris alluded to this. We really put a lot of strategy in it because we want to lay a good foundation. Again, I'm going to use that hackneyed house analogy, but it actually works really well here because just like building a house, with a training program, you want to lay a good foundation. It's really what everything is built on top of. So we do that by 4 foundational lessons, all about coaching processes, coaching models. There's different ways you can do it. We've done it all in those 25 years. We're going to tell you about it. We're going to tell you about what we do right now. We want you to kind of get a grasp of what those processes and models are. We want to help you understand how to get to the root of somebody's financial issue. We want to help you learn how to recognize and coach different personality styles. So those 4 lessons are fantastic, and that's where we start out of the gate.
Yeah, and listen, guys, that's where you're learning how to get down in the weeds with somebody. If somebody says, well, what am I really getting out of this? It's those 4 lessons. You could almost just stop there because if you don't know how to do that, doesn't matter if you know how to launch a business, doesn't matter if you know how to meet people. This is where the rubber meets the road.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of that baseball analogy. You really want to start in the first inning, and people have a tendency to want to go to the 8th or 9th inning. We think that's a mistake. So we're going to lay a good foundation. From there, then we're going to get up into the crisis modules. I always call it, the scare. I'm doing air quotes here from Nashville, the scary stuff, the student loan debacle that's happening in real time in front of our eyes, bankruptcy, foreclosures, dealing with collectors. I always tell people, once you take a peek behind the curtain and you become well-grounded in these 4 topics, they really stop becoming scary and just become another topic that you have to be able to guide somebody through. We're going to help you do that. From there, we're going to get up into future planning and talk about big picture estate planning, big picture retirement planning, big picture insurance planning, okay? It's important topics that you have to have a grounding in so you can have an intelligent conversation and give good counsel. From there, at that point, we're in the 8th inning, 9th inning, we're going to put a roof on this thing, okay? And we're going to talk about launching your coaching practice, okay? We just added a new lesson. It's lesson 14 now. We're super excited about it. It's all about marketing and messaging your coaching practice by Donald Miller.
Yeah, it is fantastic, guys. And lesson 12, 13, and 14 are all about that because I think that's been a common question. How do I find people? We have a whole lesson on prospecting and how that works. And then again, going past that, well, am I going to be a street preacher? No, here's how you do this, right? Marketing. Everybody wants to know, how do I market myself? Well, here's the reality. Donald Miller and our entire company, he's worked with our entire company, and we use this story brand approach. And really it's about messaging. And I've always heard the best marketing is this. If I can describe your problem better than you can, you'll naturally assume I have an answer to that problem. He wades way down in the waters on that because marketing is about problems, not about your solution or self-orienting. And so those final 3 lessons are magical in helping you launch your practice.
Yeah, and I want to stress that you have no idea how important it is for our entire team, from Dave all the way down, that people take our training and then get out there and launch and be a resource at that women's shelter, start that prison ministry, be the relief valve for Pastor Bob at church, start a coaching business. Again, take the training and then get out there and launch. Super important to us.
All right. So let's talk about this. So what else is included in the training? So it's not just walking through these lessons and that's it. Again, I told you we wrap our arms around you with our coaches, doing live chats with those coaches. So as you're walking through lessons, fire up a chat. Let us help you understand something better. Ask the questions. Maybe you're already working with people. Let us help you with those scenarios. Plus, you get to do interactive group coaching calls with these coaches as well. So after lessons 4, 8, 12, and 13, guys, these are the most highly rated things in the entire product because you're engaging in a small group setting with our coaches on a webinar, kind of like what we're on right now, but everybody's unmuted. We want to hear what challenges, what mental barriers are you dealing with? What are you struggling with? What are you winning with? And let everybody else hear that so you can grow better. Because listen, you can put everything you want in a video, but let's get down to the nitty gritty on a call together and let's start talking about it. That's how you're going to win. When you do it that way with quizzes and tests and these calls and these live chats you get to do, you get to really learn the right way. Learn, practice, and validate. Learn, practice, and validate. That's what this whole thing's around, because we want you walking out here going, I'm ready to go get some coaching on, right? I am confident, and oh, by the way, now I'm credible. All right. So we also do Real Talk webinars every 2 weeks as well. This is 24 more hours outside of the training. It's optional, but it's also recorded, so you can do it at any time. You can listen to them at any point. Our coaches do these on live video. They're all 3 coaches. They pick a topic. Many times they'll talk about the initial session, or they'll talk about fear inside of coaching, or really just breaking down the walls that you have between you and your client, or maybe they have client scenarios that they go over. It's the best stuff out there. They're recorded. They get sent out. Everybody gets access to those as well. Great way to supplement your training and take it to the next level. All right. And then the next part of that, of course, we load this thing up with a lot of bonus items. So if you've never been through Financial Peace University, we give you the online version, which means after lessons 2, you unlock that, and then you can start taking FPU. If you've already been through FPU, no big deal. You can actually gift that away, and maybe your first client gets that for signing up with you. We do disc test, every dollar plus, ebooks, and more. The phrase for this is the more you learn, the more you earn, and we want you to have these bonus items to help you do better at coaching. All right, here's the other thing. You get 1 year full access to the entire program. Now, listen, I told you earlier, average coach knocks this thing out in a month or 2. You have a full-on 10, 11 more months access to this full training that you can go back and watch it as many times as possible. When we used to do this on site, people would get this information in 2 to 3 days and then go home, and hopefully they can read their handwriting from those 2 to 3 days of, I think it was described, Bill, as drinking from a fire hydrant. Well, we wanted to slow it down a little bit and more like a really nice water fountain, right? For a full year. All the videos, team chat, coaching forums, bonus material. Even after the year, you have full access to the coaching forums and all bonus material. Why? Because we want you to keep coaching. Those forums are imperative for you to learn and keep helping people out in your community, and you have everything you need there as well. All right? Now, once you complete the training, to help leverage that name, we want to give you the designation, the Ramsey Solutions Master Financial Coach. That puts you in line with our organization. When they hear Ramsey, when they see you, they see us, and vice versa. Now, here's the good. That's a blessing and a curse. It's a blessing because it opens doors. It's a curse because your service now has to hold that door open. And that's where it goes to you now. What are you going to do with it? And that's key. Ramsey Solutions Master Financial Coach, out in your community, on your business cards, on your website, whatever you choose to do, it's yours when you complete that. You also get a really great certificate that you can print out and use, again, to identify what you do. Now, if you're one of our CPA friends, you're a certified public accountant, we just got certified through NASBA and accredited through NASBA to offer 44.6 total credits. And these are the technical credits, by the way, which are the highest and the best that you can get. You get over a year's worth of CPE credits if you're a CPA. Once you complete the course, has everything you need on your certificate to show that you completed the course to get your credits for the year. And again, that's something that new just popped up. You don't have to pay any additional for that. It's included with the training. Now, I've just covered the full training. Now I want to stop, kind of draw a mental line from what we just started talking about. And now we're going to talk about something that's optional after the training is completed. This is really for people who want to do coaching as a business. All those folks that were like, yeah, I want to choose to charge. I'd love to do that. If you're doing it as a ministry, just put some earplugs in, do something else. If you're doing this as a business and you say, hey, I want to do ongoing access with your team, maybe I want referrals. Do you guys do referrals? The answer is yes. The Ramsey Preferred Coach Program, fantastic ongoing development, fantastic community, and supplemental referrals. This is the program that you want to be a part of if you choose to do that. It's 100% optional. We have a full-on webinar after the training is over that will cover everything. We just get enough questions about, especially the referral part of that, right up front. We're like, yes, we do, right after the fact. This program, again, if you're doing it as a coaching business, will help you launch your practice faster, easier, and better. The program rate on that is $149 a month after you complete the training, 100% optional. We'll tell you more about that as well. All right, so we talked about the training, what you can do after the fact. How in the world do you get started? Well, if you're on live with us, we're going to send you an email here in about an hour, hour and a half that's going to give you everything that you need to get started. We have a really great discount code that I'm going to share with you in just a second. That's going to be in there. Cool message from Dave as well. Everything you need to get started if you're here live with us, we'll have that out for you. The second thing is, if you're listening to a recording of this, FCMT Online gives you a full breakdown of the lessons, everything we talked about today, plus that's a way that you can go get enrolled in the program as well. Now, the normal price of the training is $17.95. That covers the full training for that full year. Everything you need. And then if you choose to join Ramsey Preferred Coach, that's optional after the training for those that want to do it as a business. So something that we're doing right now is we're giving you $200 off that $17.95. So the normal rate is $17.95. If you take $200 off, that's $15.95. That covers the full training for a full year. And that's available through the end of this month. Now we have 103 enrollments available left for that discount code, SAVE200. And that gives you, again, everything you need. So $17.95 is the normal price. $200 off makes it $15.95. We also have two other bonuses that I want to tell you about. The launch plan. One of our coaches emailed me back about this the other day, and he said, listen, if you want to know how to launch a coaching practice, this is the thing for you. If you still can't launch a coaching practice after watching the launch plan, go do something else. Okay, that's exactly what he told me. And I was like, okay, I'll share that with some people. 103 enrollments also get that. So after lesson 14, you get access to that as well. It's a series of videos that walks over content creation, networking strategy, all the tools that we recommend that you have as a part of a coaching practice, what we see our top coaches do. Everything you need is included in the launch plan. The third thing is the all-in-one value pack. So a lot of folks ask us about prospecting. These are great ways to prospect. So $250 worth of a bundle of books and things that we send you, that's included with the Save 200 discount code. So again, Save 200 is going to give you $200 off the training, plus the launch plan, plus the all-in-one bundle. That's available for 103 enrollments left through September 30th at midnight. So you have some time there, but we wanted to let you know what kind of great promo we're running. So let's get into some Q&A here for a few moments and get your questions answered right out of the gates. All right, so a reminder, the bottom of your screen, you click on Q&A, type your question in, and we'll get to that as well. Also, I'm going to throw my contact info up there. So if we don't get to your question, or if you want to ask something offline, feel free to let me know. We'll get you scheduled.
Hey, Chris, let me get the ball started here. I've seen a couple comments about people asking about multiple purchase discounts and so forth. So Talk about that.
Yep. Well, two answers. Let me give you two answers to that. So number one, if you have more than one person that wants to sign up for the program, we had a guy this morning that had 3 people sign up with him. You get a really strong discount. If you go to the store page, you put in quantity 2 or more, it's going to give you a really strong discount off the training, and you all get taken care of there. Also, there is a difference between purchase and activation.
Yeah, good point.
So if you purchase the training right now because you love the promo, but you can't get started till, I don't know, Christmas, then that's fine. Your year begins when you activate, not when you purchase. So if you purchase in the month of September, but September is not a good month for you, that's no problem. You activate, your year starts once you activate. All right. I saw a question come in from Lowell. He said, hey, what are the payment options?
Yeah, we get that question. Fantastic. So we don't take payments. We require full payment up front, but it's an important question. Laurel, was it you said? Lowell, excuse me. I want to tell you why, Lowell, because first of all, what the world would do with this would take payments. They'd turn it into a QVC infomercial and 5 easy payments and that kind of a thing. We're not going to do that. We believe if we took payments, you would owe us money, and that's called debt, and we'd be the biggest phony balonies around. So we're not going to do that. If you want to take the training, but you don't have the money put aside, relax, save up for it over a couple months. When you're ready to get going, give Chris a call.
Yep. Angela says, what type of insurance or other legal type fees are needed if you want to do this as a business? Well, coaches don't have insurance. And here's the reason. They stay in their lane, number one, but then they also focus on cash flow planning, debt elimination. They don't sell investments. They don't sell insurance. They don't do taxes. And, our coaches, they stay in the lane. There's no issues there. Here's the thing you always have to remember. If you don't like being debt free, it's pretty easy to get back into it. So it's not like you took money from people in that capacity. Also, coaches give recommendations. They don't say, you need to sell your car. You need to sell your house. Here's 3 options. You could sell your house. You could sell your car. You could do nothing. That's the way that looks. Lacey has a good question. How do you know when someone needs a therapist instead of a financial coach? Well, many times we're sitting there with people and we'll go, man, you really need a marriage counselor. But you still have to keep working on your finances, because how are you going to pay for that marriage counselor? And so we'll say you kind of need to do both. As I mentioned, coaching deals with the emotional, psychological, and relational. Money issues inside of marriages are terrible, guys. And so sometimes, yeah, they may need a little extra help with a therapist to get that help, but that doesn't mean they have to stop working on their budget. Sometimes you live in the world, as I hear my good friend Bill here say, in the world of rather than the world of war. So love that question. All right, let's see here. Gonna grab a couple more. All right, let's see here. Can a married couple share an account for FCMT, or do they need separate trainings? Well, yes, it's per person. If you sign up to get an English degree from University of Phoenix, your wife can't look over your shoulder and now all of a sudden she could teach English. Each person has to have their own. And that allows you to, again, go through the training at your own space. You're able to call yourself a coach. It's just that way.
Here's a good question. What else do I need to purchase after buying FCMT? Really good, fair question. The answer is nothing. Okay. Now, let me backtrack slightly. Unless you have Aspire to coach as a business and you want to take advantage of Ramsey Preferred Coach that Chris mentioned, other than that, there are no back-end requirements. There are no additional materials that we're hiding from you that you have to buy to complete the course. I promise you there are no gotchas coming. The price is the price. It includes the whole shooting match. And by the way, if you coach as a business, whether inside of Ramsey Preferred Coach or outside, every penny that you earn coaching is yours to keep. This isn't some franchise we're running or some MLM where we're taking a cut of your coaching fee, okay?
No.
We champion you and celebrate you from Nashville, Tennessee.
Yep, got 3 really good questions in a row. What's the average time it takes for an individual to get their business started once the training is completed? So we had a young lady come through our training. She was 19 years old a couple years back. She coached 60 people in the first 90 days. Now, here's the other side of that question or answer, Kyle. I've also met 35-year-old grown men with tons of money, nothing to do, no family, and tons of time. They can't find anybody. The difference is one chose to do something, one chose not to do something. So I mentioned Earl Nightingale earlier. He goes, the crazy man stares at the empty fireplace and screams at it to give him heat. Nope, he has to put wood in, and then he can expect heat. The 19-year-old young lady chopped wood and got heat out of it because that's what was reality. The other guy goes, well, why aren't people just coming to me? Well, you're not a McDonald's arch. You have to go do something about it. So you can do it as fast or you can choose to do it slower. That's up to you. Anonymous attendee said, how much content is U.S. specific? I'm in Canada. As I mentioned earlier, coaching is about the emotional, psychological, relational aspect. It's not about where you live aspect. I always joke with my Canadian friends. I always ask them, hey, what do y'all talk about debt up there? And they'll say, I'm joking. I say, hey, what do y'all call debt in Canada? And they'll say, well, call it debt. I'm like, great, we're on the same page. Good. What do y'all call budgeting in Canada? And they'll say, well, budgeting. And I'll go, we're winning. We're winning across the board. Here's the thing. You're going to have an RRSP up there. We have a 401k. How do you get money into either one of those? You put money into it, the behavior of putting money into it. It's not about taxes. It's not about insurance. One of my favorite coaches lives in Amherstburg, Canada, and took it 15 years ago.
It's very common for Canadian folks, our Canadian friends, to take our training.
I love this one because it's a little controversial. So it's like my favorite stuff to deal with. Don says, hey, I agree with your header. It's 80% behavior and 20% knowledge, but I didn't see anything in the curriculum that addressed this opportunity. Don, I'm going to have to challenge you here a little bit. The entire curriculum was about behavior. The first 4 lessons were getting to the root of your issues, overcoming those issues, dealing with your personality and how you view money. Our coaching model and teaching you how to do that, then we get into the specifics. That's why I kind of hit a natural pause right there where I said, that's really the crux of it all. Bankruptcy, you're going to learn about bankruptcy. But here's the thing. Social stigma is not there out in the community, but here's what it really boils down to. Most people think bankruptcy is the answer to their problem, but it never solves the behavior. Behavior drives everything, Don. If you don't fix the behavior and I show you how to do math, you'll still do terrible with money. That's what coaching is all about. That's what separates us in the marketplace from anybody else. All right.
Question about mobile friendly. Is FCMT mobile friendly? And great news is it absolutely is. It was actually built mobile friendly first, and it works phenomenal on all your iOS devices, whether it be a phone, laptop, etc. Works equally great on your Android devices. Bottom line, you have to have some sort of device and an internet connection, whether that be a park bench, your chair in your office at home or at work, and that's what you need to methodically work your way through the training.
Two more, we'll wrap up, and then we'll do our giveaway, okay? So Brandon says, hey, can you talk about how some of your coaches structure their fees and pricing to their clients, sample pricing? Yeah, I kind of covered that a little bit, what I talked about doing their business. The average coach charges between $100 and $200 per session. The average client they meet with is about 5 to 7 times. And how do I know this? We do surveys to our coaches that are in that Ramsey Preferred Coach program, and that's what they tell us they're doing. Those are the ones that are doing coaching as a business. They usually meet with a client on average an hour at a time. Most people can't go past that. That's what the average structure and fees look like. When we're in the training, we don't do arbitrary numbers though. Brandon, you should charge $100. We say, Brandon, what do you think you're worth? The psychology of what you believe, what your value you bring. Most people don't even think about what problems they solve and what that problem solved is worth.
Let me just jump in real quick, by the way. Editorial comment from your buddy Bill here, okay, is that what we have found by talking with hundreds and hundreds of people is that people, when they ask themselves that question, almost always out of the gate, they undervalue themselves.
Way undervalued.
Way undervalue themselves. When they take the risk, when they take the dare and increase their prices, we've had more coaches than we can count, shake a stick at, that have gotten back to us and said they raised their prices and their business exploded.
So going back to Don's piece, many times what we do, and you'll need to do with your clients, we teach you how to answer the question behind the question, which brings me to David's question. How can we find out how many practices are in our area? Here's the unique part about that. That generally is I don't want to be in an oversaturated market, or I may be dealing with a bit of scarcity mentality. Well, let me kind of solve the fear. 255 million Americans live paycheck to paycheck. We won't get through it in 10 lifetimes, guys. You'll never have a situation where you're like, oh my goodness, there's no one else left to help in America. And let me explain this to you as well. And we all can do this, rhetorically here. Do you know any CPAs in your area? Everybody just shook their head, yeah. Do you know any financial advisors in your area? Yep, know 5 of them. Good. Do you know any financial coaches in your area? Exactly. Because here's the deal. There's not a city in America that's oversaturated with financial coaches. Not one single city. You know why? It's on my desktop. I can see every single one of them. There's 560 listed nationwide. 560. I talked to a lady the other day in Florida who was a CPA, and she said, is Florida oversaturated with coaches? I said, no, what do you do? She said, I'm a CPA. I said, how many CPAs are in Florida? I'm not joking. 53,000. We had 2 coaches in Jacksonville, Florida.
There's 18,000 realtors in Nashville, Tennessee.
There you go. That's the way you got to remember it. There's no area of the country that's oversaturated, so you're good there. So guys, listen, I love y'all's questions. I've thrown my contact info up there. We'd love to catch up with you, help you in any way we can to answer your questions, overcome these mental barriers, as you can see that we're dealing with and talking about. Happy to help you. Let me just say this. I'm going to hop on a soapbox, and then we're going to give away something. There's going to be people on here today that are going to be like, man, I don't like Chris and Bill. And listen, I can live with that, because here's the deal. I know that the coaches who jump into this serve people. The last 2 months, Dave's put blogs up about coaches who've changed the face financially of their community. One of our coaches, Greg, he's helped his community pay off $13 million in the last decade. Those type of things are going to happen. And we love people that are going, man, I get it. You've put into words what I've been thinking and feeling. I'm just glad that now I have an outlet to go do it. But there's going to be other people on here that are going to go, oh man, that was an infomercial. Oh man, I don't like those guys. Oh, I thought they were Christian. They're trying to make money. There's a red button at the top right-hand corner. Please go click that. But here's what I would tell you to do while you're on your way up. Go find out what God made you to do and do that with everything you got, because it's too much time to waste to worry about what everybody else is doing. Focus on your world. Go do what you got to do. Do what you're built to do, and you'll be happy. I promise you, because we're happy. We're doing what God called us to do. There's coaches out there that do what God called them to do, and we want you to join in. If not, it's okay. We can both still be friends and go to heaven, and that's great. So told you I'd give away something. Told you I'd give away a full enrollment to FCMT online. So the person who's going to win that today is Larry Coleman. Larry Coleman, you are the winner of Financial Coach Master Training.
Nice,
for
Larry.
1 year full access. Now let me go ahead and save you a few emails. Larry's going to take it. So if you're thinking, well, if Larry doesn't take it, I'll email Chris, and then I'll tell him that if Larry doesn't take it, I want it. Larry's going to take it, okay? There you go. So listen, guys, We love y'all so much. We appreciate y'all's time. We hope you had a good time. We hope you liked the music before. We hope you enjoyed the content during and our Q&A here. And we really hope to see you part of our coach training. And we'd love to have an extended relationship with you, maybe in RPC as well. Y'all have a great day.